Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're extremely lucky because you don't only get to hear my guest, but you get to look at his ridiculously beautiful face as well. I'm Aeron, as you know, proprietor and shithouse remaster of Wrestle Plug, and joining me for a third time, unprecedented, the only guest to return for a third time, is of course the man who should be built like a fridge freezer, the man who enjoys a Bacardi breezer, the panty line creaser, the insanely sexual teaser that is Ebeneeza, the full-time geezer. Spitting anybody's faces lately, bruv?
No, only in the last show we did in what was it, Southampton, wasn't it? And what fun that was! What fun it was spitting on people's faces during a pandemic.
What fun it was to upset the entire community. It's actually nice for once not to be the person upsetting everybody in the wrestling industry. This will be a very informal chat, obviously, because we are basically brethren.
Well, the last time I came on, it was literally like the time before, what was it, a week before the Reborn show, and I got called a paedophile left, right, and centre because all I had was a tash on. And now I've grown a full beard, I'm still getting called a paedophile. Like, it's never ending.
Well, you look very handsome in our books, mate, or at least in mine. I would say you look better than Frankie T, but I ain't saying much, is it?
It's not hard. It's not
really. No, it's not like Frankie will have. It's not like he'll have a rebuttal either, because he'll probably be on mute to fucking melt. It is what it is. So, you know what? Obviously, last time you were on was, you know, for that little kind of sort of match hype. And then before that, it was a little time before that as well. And we were sort of building towards Reborn and things like that. Now, when I last spoke to you, Win Brand wasn't out, you know, but it was about to launch your brand new clothing company. Obviously, CWP Reborn. You had a show at BCW as well. So lots to get into. So let's start with the Win Brand. Let's try and get something positive in before we upset the dinosaurs. How has it been knowing that you are now a full-time brand owner as well as a wrestler?
It was good to start with, and like it's still good now knowing that I have my own thing, and like at my age as well. A lot more could have gone into it, a lot more thought process, a lot more research, and a lot more feedback and stuff before actually bringing out what we've got. But you live and you learn. You've got to take criticism, and I've taken a lot of that over the last couple of weeks, and it's just all to jot down and do better, really. But yeah, it is nice to be a brand owner. It's just really slow at the moment, so hopefully things will start going soon enough, maybe in the next couple of months. Maybe it will take another year for it to go back off, but that's why I've got to bring the fixer in.
Yeah, winclothing.co.uk, or is it .com? It's .com, isn't it? Which is even more sensible. Yeah,
it's .co.uk. So
it is .co.uk. There you go. So I'm very tired. Fuck off. Very, very tired. And we all know what that is with everything running around. Talk to me about the Win Brand a little bit, because obviously it's a big time venture. Like you say, you're still quite a young lad, much younger than me, you lucky bastards. You know, everything's still working for you, which is good news. Let me know when it all starts fucking faltering like it has for me.
My back's going already.
My back was going the first day I took a bump. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to survive. I will see that mobility scooter quicker than you think, and I do love a rascal. I'm curious about like the sort of the management of it and things of that nature. Has it been like a really interesting learning experience, because it's not something you've done before?
Absolutely. Like it's one of them things where like beforehand it was exciting because it was, you know, I was lorry driving, I was wrestling, I was doing all my sports and whatnot, and then when the Win Brand come, it was sort of like full time, because for the like first couple of weeks to a month we was full on. So I was actually going to work, I was coming back home having a shower and shooting straight out and doing a load of deliveries. So it was tiring, but it was well worth it. And then just after a while, it just sort of like died down and slowed down because, let's face it, I'm shit at social media. My partner's not the best at it either, which is why we need to invest in a social media guru. But yeah, knowing that I am a company owner, it feels good because it feels like I'm getting somewhere in life. It feels like there's nowhere but up. I mean, fuck me, there's plenty of people like Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and whatnot. What was it? About 20, one of them was 25 years old and ended up declaring bankruptcy. And now look at them, absolute giants in the metaverse.
The metaverse. Yeah, it's one of those things where even if you don't see record profits or great sales for a long period of time or even at all, having the balls in our climate, I think even more so than now, to become an independent person or a self-employed or a proprietor of your own business and be your own boss takes a lot of gumption, takes a lot of extreme pride and, you know, effort to do, because the system is set up for you to fail in so many ways. We're seeing the laughable state of how our countries run and everything that goes with that, and you know, the stranglehold. You know, just the other day, I'm coming home from one of our gigs. I go into, you know, a quick kebab shop. I'm thinking I have a quick chicken shish, and the fucking Turkish lad in there literally spends 20 minutes telling me about how they pay so much commission that even though they're an independent chain that makes good food, and they're very successful, to be fair, they always have a queue out the door. They don't make any money. They like barely break even. He was like, yeah, I make like minimum wage, even though I'm my own boss and I run this fucking shop. And it's like knowing that, and then knowing, obviously the food industry is an extreme example because it is so, you know, intense with health and safety standards. Yeah, it is. It's very hardcore, but it is still a great achievement. What's the long-term goals with it? Do you look to create new merchandise on top of what you already have? Do you look to garner different customers? Do you have kind of a bucket list of things that you're looking to do to try and improve the brand and to, most importantly, you know, see it out to the success you want it to have?
So what I want to do is, personally, one of my goals would be to get at least a couple of shops set up in certain places. I know Joe mentioned about getting one out in Greece where his mum resides. We're about maybe getting one or two out in America, maybe, hopefully, you know, if it ends up getting that big, a few over in England, just to, you know, keep things afloat kind of thing, rather than coming out of your fucking storage shed. And but yeah, that's one of the goals, is to get a few shops. Another goal is to start doing promotional stuff, you know, stuff that will go to charities. You know, like we'll buy a load of t-shirts with, you know, quirky stuff like you've got nowadays. Take the money that we spend on the t-shirts and just keep putting it in back into production, and whatever's left over goes straight to the charity that it's all bought for. You know,
Yeah.
like the promotional side of things would be a non-profit, but even now we're not earning anything out of it. Like, luckily, he's got a full-time job. I've got a full-time job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to keep afloat with what's going on at the moment. And luckily, with the current climate as well, with everything that's going up, our prices are soon to be going down. So at least that's one good thing that's happening in this bullshit government we're going under.
Yeah, inflation is definitely a thing and has been since the beginning of time. We don't live in the democracy, my boy. We live in a dictatorship, and you will comply.
Unfortunate lie.
Yeah, no, it's sad that I'm not even really joking, even though I want to. It's getting that way. Highly recommend, ladies and gentlemen, that you go on Netflix and check out How to Become a Tyrant. It is alarming how accurate it is to modern day. So it's basically a 6-part series that's narrated by Peter Dinklage about all the world's most famous dictators and how they became the tyrants they were. And your favourites on there, Adolf Hitler, obviously. It's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get your knickers in. I'm not as famous as Jimmy Carr, so you can't cancel me. And don't worry, we'll talk about that as well. But it covers like all the great ones: Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. And then when you watch it, you see, like, for instance, they talk about one episode's dedicated to controlling the media, how you put a spin on things, how you make it sound like you're doing good things or deflecting certain things. Like, our government does exactly the same thing. Like, you know, it's out there in the ether for people to see. It's just a fact at this point, and we've seen it with the debacle with the Christmas parties and things like that. And it's one of those things where you're like, not actually too dissimilar. The only difference is they go about killing people in a much more stylish and very subtle way, I suppose, as opposed to Saddam, who was like, "Where's my sister? Get in here, you're dead." Like, you know, I'm sure that'll upset many people. So I could give a fuck at this point. And the joy of having you on the podcast is that you're one of the few guests we can have where it's just a completely let loose, uncensored conversation. You know, episode 2 was upsetting the marks. Episode 3 is purely uncensored geezer. So let's get into the heart of the matter. I know why people are listening to this or watching this, because I guarantee the first thing they go is, "Oh, I can't wait for him to talk about the match." And when I say the match, we all know what I'm talking about. So,
Reborn Shuffle.
Reborn indeed. November. Talk to me, Terry. So you're in a match, 6-man, dirty 24/7 scramble match. When this match took place, obviously, as you know, I was videographer for that. Thank you very much for the extra editing work, by the way.
You're welcome.
Thank God for Rob Connor. All I could say is,
what a legend that guy is as well.
He is a legend. Shout out to our boy Rob. So, you know, this match, 24/7 titles. Now, for people who maybe aren't into wrestling, because I know a few of Dexter's mates might watch, who aren't necessarily wrestling fans, the idea of this match was, at any point, if you pin the champion, you would become the new champion and you would hold this belt. And then, obviously, this would go on for a time limit of 15 minutes. Whoever had the belt at the end of that 15 minutes would be the current reigning champion. And then I assume would immediately have to start defending the belt because it's 24/7. So the rules ended, which is cool. So standard scramble match. Now, like I say, I recorded it. It was a bit mad in places. Some things weren't fantastic. Other things I thought were downright fucking hilarious. And I also thought there was some actually very good wrestling in there at points. Not the whole match, has to be said, but at least particularly at the start. And it had recognized talent as well, including Jake Hollister, an international import who is phenomenal.
Gee, that guy is as well. What a lad.
Yeah, I mean, he's an extreme talent. But what I wasn't expecting was when I uploaded everything and it went live on the CWP channel, first of all, it raced out into a pretty early sort of lead alongside Franco and Joel, which was very impressive in its own right. But one thing that I also noticed was that it was picking up a lot of notoriety, not necessarily for good reasons, at least in the eyes of people who were watching it, veterans of our business, things like that. Very soon after that, a lot of fallout, a lot of shitty little comments being made, people hiding behind Facebook, people making snotty remarks, disliking the video, trying to ruin the algorithm. By the way, newsflash dorks, if you really don't want something to succeed, don't hit the dislike button, because the more you interact with it in general, the more it gets views, which is why it's still one of the most highly viewed matches from that entire show, and it beat out quite a few matches. Yeah. And, you know, hey, Eric Bischoff, controversy creates cash. So, you know, we've had people sort of have little takes on it. Franco Varga, shock horror, professional, said, not my cup of tea. There was advice that I gave to the lads, but all in all, it had its place and it did what it was supposed to do in that slot. Some people had much more vitriolic things to say. Some people said really, depending on how you look at it, hurtful things, you know, very sort of denigrating and, you know, frankly, very negative attitudes where they didn't even offer any constructive criticism. Labels were thrown at everyone in this match saying that they should go and train, learn to train, go and learn to wrestle, disgrace to the business, killing British wrestling. These are just a small,
again. Like,
just a small platter of it.
The list goes on.
Yeah, the list goes on. So now you're on my podcast again. So now you get to have your say on everything. The match, you know, tell me about it. Like, in retrospect, how do you feel about being in a match like that and knowing, obviously, in hindsight, what we know now and what people think of it? Is there any like opinion that changes with it? Is there anything about it that you regret? I'm sure that's not the case, obviously, but what's the kind of overall thought process of everything that kind of went down, including all that backlash?
Regret absolutely fucking none of it. Like, we went into that match all agreeing that, you know, we're going to go out there, we're just going to be full of shithouse. It's going to be one of them, we're just going to take the absolute rotten piss. It's, for starters, it's for a dirty 24/7 title. It's a legit title because we made it, basically. We made it, like, that was the first ever match that was defended in an actual match card. Like, it was greatly placed because you had an incredible match beforehand with Franco and Joel doing their absolute monster of a match. Then it was ours as a shithouse, and then you had the main event as the Rumble. Like, it was perfect.
Well, to be fair, Robbie Nitro and Jackson Arrow was the match before yours.
Oh, was it?
But I'm sure you already knew that.
I don't really care. I'll just care about my own match. Fuck the rest of them.
I was like, I was going to say, I was getting offended. I was like, you're not telling me that Robbie Nitro's match was a good match. Behave yourself. A potato shouldn't wrestle.
Not like, it was one of them matches. Like, I really enjoyed myself because we were let loose. We were allowed our own creative. We were allowed to do whatever the fuck we wanted. Like, everyone had their own little input. There was no censorship involved. Even the refs had something to do with it. Like, there was people in the crowd that was allowed to do stuff. Like, it was absolutely, like, there's no other word but fun for us. Yeah, we wasn't going for a 5-star match. I ain't going for 5-star matches. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I'm going there to entertain people and make people laugh, and that's exactly what we fucking did. Like, I'm not being funny, but the old cunts that decided that they wanted to get really upset because we're killing British wrestling. Motherfucker, I don't want to be a British wrestler, like, doing like knuckle locks and holds and shit like that. Bollocks to you. Like, all I want to do is entertain. All I want to do is make people happy, and that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what every single person in that match done. We had our operation, we had our mission, and we fucking completed it. Like, there was nothing else towards that. And some of the comments that were made, like, I didn't take offense. I'd hardly ever take offense. I can take criticism. I'm fine with what all of the dinosaurs have been saying about it. But there were one or two people in that match that really took to heart what was being said, and one of them even, like, was so hard, like, it hit them that hard that they nearly stopped wrestling. And I think it's bang out of order because there was no criticism. It was just all out. These people shouldn't be wrestling. They're a pile of shit. You know, if CWP end up bringing them back, then, you know, the world is going to implode and, you know, the sky is falling and shit like that. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not being funny. If you don't like it, slide into my DMs, slide into Frankie T, slide into Dave's. If you think we should go back to training, go fuck yourself. I've trained under IPW, under Catch 22, under Rishi. I've trained under Red Pro. I've trained under so many schools for about 3-4 years, and I've learned everything I possibly could And then I decided to stop because I wanted to be an entertainer, not a wrestler. And it's exactly what I went and done. The rest of them, you know, they can do whatever they want. But I am going back to training school. I don't see the need to. One of the last podcasts I did with you, I said to you that I would rather do entertaining because I'm not going to like put my body at risk, like do 450s and shit like that because I depend on my work too much. You know, I'm a lorry driver earning massive money. If someone wants to pay me £160 a day to do 450 splashes off of a top turnbuckle, so be it. I'll go and do something. But if you're going to pay me tuppence, I ain't going to put my life on the line for you. Fuck you. No life insurance, nothing. Wrestling's not worth it for the minute unless you're working for one of the massive companies or you enjoy it so much and you're on minimum wage or whatever. Like it's entirely up to the person, but I'm not going to put myself out for it anymore. I enjoy wrestling, I love it with a passion, but you know, if people are going to start criticizing me, they can suck an arsehole. Because I'm not going to leave wrestling because of it. I'm just going to carry, like, if anything, the more people are going to get upset by my wrestling, the more I'm going to do it to wind these fuckers up.
That's
Eventually, my name is going to get around, whether it's good or bad. My name is going to get around, and eventually, something will take off.
The response to it will be, because you know me, I'm very good at gauging a response. The response to your words will be, you should always train, should always respect the business. You know, a lot of old school mentalities as well as that. I personally one of those people who believes that people should try and at least get training in regularly just because for safety reasons, for their own sake, like, you know, tune up your bumps and things like that. That's just my opinion. So I don't fully agree that, you know, you shouldn't go to training, like, but at the same time,
I'm not saying that you shouldn't. What I'm saying is it's entirely up to you what you do. Don't get me wrong. Whenever I go to a show and the ring is up, if I've got a spare 20 minutes or so, I will get in the ring. I will do my rolls. I will do my bumps. I will do a couple of moves with people just so that I know I can still do it. They know that I'm completely safe with doing this, that, and the other. Like, I don't go in there like without training for years on end and saying, "Come on, then let's do a top rope suplex or something." I don't know. Like, if I'm going to do something major, then I will train it beforehand. But if I'm going to do petty little shit like I'm doing, like walking around the place shouting, "Geeza!" I don't need to train for that. I'll do that at work.
I've noticed. Yeah, Danny Disorder be damned. It's one of those. It is one of those things where I understood constructive critiques of the match. Watching it back on the watch along, there are a lot of things I didn't like about it. Hated the dead air. Like, if there's one thing that will trigger me, don't fucking stand there and just watch other people do stuff like a goober. Like, it looks crap. Like, that's my opinion. But at the same time, for instance, I love the first 2 or 3 minutes of the match. It was really well laid out, very funny, very entertaining. And it did have some wrestling in it. Like, you know, all right, it's not a masterclass, but like you say, it's not meant to be. What frustrates me is that it caught so much heat, but yet we still glorify a guy like Orange Cassidy in AEW, whose gimmick is that he puts his hands in his pockets. And I'm then supposed to sit there and appreciate this guy when he goes toe-to-toe with Pac, who, in my opinion, is the best wrestler in the world, for 20 minutes. And I'm just like, no, fuck you. So if that's not going to draw the ire and the vitriol of the masses, then this match particularly has no right to. And like you say, there was a couple of individuals in this match, one in particular who we don't need to name, who took it very badly. They found it very difficult at a young age, and he's got a lot of great potential as well. We're not talking about someone who's not good. Like, he's got a lot of potential and he's a great wrestler.
He's a fantastic wrestler. Like, he can go places, but the comments really hit him hard because he's not there mentally yet. Like, he's not to his full potential mentally. And for someone like him, like horrible words and phrases and whatnot, like paragraphs, like some dickhead on like decided to use his personal Facebook to completely annihilate our match. And yet, like my favorite example, you've got people like is it the anti-fun police, no fun police?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Like, absolutely great tag. They're like one of my favorite and funniest tags that I know. But one of them uses his hand as a gun, as a fake gun. Like, and we're the ones killing the business.
It's vendetta is what it is. What it is it's a vindictive nature.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, like your match was easily the most divisive match on the card. So if you don't like CWP already because you've got an axe to grind, what you're going to do is then go straight to that and use that as an example of why the company is shit. And using, I heard one of the lines I heard was, other than the matches that had the veterans in, everything was shit. And it's like, yeah, but you could apply that to any card. You could go up to any show and say, is Joel Redman in that match? Yeah, cool, that match is good. The rest of them shit then, because he's clearly a better wrestler than everybody else. And that's not really up for debate. And it's like, but that's not fair, because wrestling should have a plethora of different things to appeal to a different market. So, it frustrates him. Dirty Dave Dennis was in that match. He's very divisive as well. He came on my podcast, and some things I was in full agreement with. Other things I thought he was completely off kilter with. But one thing that always interests me about Dave is how I don't know many guys who work as hard as he does, who are willing to take the sacrifices and take the pay cuts like he does to work how he does. And he has spent so much time and money investing in himself, his ring gear, his belt, his persona, his cameos. And all I ever heard when I started from these veterans was, you need to invest in yourself. You need to have self-respect. You've got to look after yourself. So Dirty Dave Dennis goes and does that, and then essentially gets shit canned and overlooked for a number of years. And it makes you think, well, fuck you then. That flies in the face of all of these things. What do you think about... I had Frankie T on the podcast. Now, obviously, he wasn't nearly as charismatic as you because he's boring as shit. But ultimately, and we will continue this until he actually, is a fighting champion. Because the idea of your belt saying fighting champion means that you actually are a fighting champion, not some urban sloth that hides in his mum's basement, bruv. So, put the fucking belt on the line or shut the fuck up. But, to Frankie's credit, he engaged with me in a decent conversation, and we sort of touched upon this veteran mentality. Gotta take your lumps, a card should be full of veterans, it shouldn't have anyone else, etc.
Get young guns over them. How are you supposed to get the new academic people over? Because I'm not being funny, and this isn't a dig, but if you're gonna go through places like Rev Pro, who literally do their only shows for students versus veterans, and then go to the actual Rev Pro where they come in as contenders and then become veterans, it's too much of a long process. Academic people need to get out there. Like, they need to go to other shows and other places, show what they can do, show that they're willing, show that they want to be a part of the business, and not just stick around for somewhere that's going to take them fucking 10 years to get on a main roster. Like, and that, I'm paraphrasing. It doesn't take people 10 years, but it takes some people longer than others, when the people that take longer deserve it more. Like, there's like only a couple of names, but I won't throw anyone out there because I'm not that unprofessional, but there are some people that deserve to be a contender before others. Just saying.
Yeah, no, my sort of question was going to basically be, do you think wrestling needs a bit of an overhaul in the way that it looks at, with its old school roles and its veteran-like mentality, and that you're paying your dues and things like that? Do you think it needs tweaking? Do you think it needs changing?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, every place has their differences. Some places don't like doing women's wrestling. Like, that's fair enough. There are plenty of places out there that do women's wrestling. Some do half cards. Half the cards are women's wrestling. It's great to see. Some places are just fully women. Some places are just fully men. It's just like the way it is. But everywhere will let someone come in and pay their dues. It's the ones for me that are the best ones are the ones that actually pay all of their workers. Pay that, like, and that includes the cameramen, that includes the refs, and for me, refs deserve a bit. Some refs deserve more than talent. Like we've got at RWE, Raheem. He was an absolute banging referee. He is so good. He works with the camera so well. He's always looking. His facial expressions are absolutely fantastic. For me, someone like him who's out there for every single match, knackering himself, getting up and down every single time, he deserves a fucking whopping amount of money compared to someone like me, who's only going out there for one match, 15 minutes, and spends 10 minutes of it talking shit. Like wrestling definitely needs an overhaul, but it all depends on the company, it all depends on the people, it all depends on the attitudes. Like there's so many factors, but this whole veteran mentality needs to fucking end, because no one's bigger than another person. Like it should all just go down to attitude and not veteranism. It shouldn't matter how many years you've put in. It should matter of how you treat people by the end of it.
Yeah, and length of career doesn't necessarily equate to more talented either. I know guys that have been in this business 20, 30 years, still going out there having very substandard or very boring basic matches. Cool, that's fine. Like they're entitled to do so if they can get away with it now, but that doesn't equate to necessarily the best work. And like you say, someone like Raheem's a really good example, because like he's one of the best independent referees in the country, but I guarantee you he'll get paid next to nothing to work an entire show, not just one match. And when you think about what a referee has to learn, he's got to remember the finish of every match that he's in. He's got to be self-aware and understand that there could be an injury or an accident, and if there is, how is he going to affect protocol? Is he first aid certified, which he is? Has he got DBS checks, which he has? He's got a safeguarding as well. He's one of the few people out there doing his job properly, like myself. And I think the most frustrating thing for me is I take so much pride in my work. Everything that I do looks good. And a lot of these people who are screaming to the high heavens that you're unprofessional, or that, your match was garbage, or that for whatever reason they didn't entertain them and they think you're a disgrace to the business and blah, 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 and all this boring, all that stuff. For me, I'm sitting here thinking a lot of those people work in companies where they don't pay their talent, or they don't fucking pay them what they should do. They, consistently use talent or put them on posters and then don't, have them at shows, false advertise, whatever reason, a multitude of different things. And there's, honestly, I'm not stupid, I'm not naive. I know there's a lot of companies that do this, probably armies that I don't even know. And that hot dog and handshake mentality, oh, we can't pay you, but you're getting exposure. Listen here, fuck nuts. I can't go into the co-op, or, obviously in my case, it would be the local shop for local people, and go in there and say, I'll have a litre of semi-skimmed milk, packet of peanuts, scratch card, whatever it might be. And they say, oh, that'll be £12.42, sir. You see, that's cool and all, but what you don't realize is that on the weekend, I had a 10-minute match where I was in a battle royal, and I was told that I would have exposure. So I would like to pay for that with exposure. Do you know what the response to that is, ladies and gentlemen? It is, get the fuck out of my shop, motherfucker. And the reason for that is because exposure doesn't pay the fucking bills. And when you're dragging people out and saying, you know, you got to work for years. Oh, we just do it for the love of it. Yeah. Well, you still expect us to work. And all the time that there is work involved, there should be recompense for said work. There should be a compensation. There should be a payment. If you're asking people to work 12 to 14 hours a day, which they do a lot of the time, they are entitled to a working wage. They are entitled to be paid for it, because you know what happens when you don't pay talent, when you don't fucking respect them, and when you decide you can take liberties and not pay them fuck all. What happens is they lose respect for people around them and their peers because they're not paid to do what they do. And what happens when you lose respect for people? You take liberties with them. And when you take liberties with people, then all of a sudden you start doing bad things to people. And then we start having movements and things happening to talents that shouldn't happen. And all of that is a knock-on effect from your lack of professionalism and ability to pay talents, you fucking cockwaffles. That's exactly why it's a fucking problem. And we all have to suffer because we have to take the dents. We have to say, so, you know, these people saying Ebeneeza The Geeza killed the business. No, I'm pretty sure these guys who didn't know how to behave correctly around women are destroying our business. I'm pretty sure these guys who essentially enforce slave labor and stuff a multitude of lads in a house and force them to work for nothing but a sack of potatoes, those people are killing our business. This is not a fucking carny circus. This is a profession for people who take it very seriously. And when I go and work for places like IWE and Rumble and a multitude of other places, they fucking pay their talent and they look after them. And if you don't like them because certain individuals aren't, you know, in your mind, roided up gas heads who could be in the main event of WrestleMania 6, I could care less, because I would rather work with people like that than work with people who think it's okay to abuse and violently and aggressively molest women and things of that nature. So
the humble ones are always the better ones to be with.
I don't have any time for it. And if I walked in when I was a postman for 15, 16 years, I don't think it would have gone down well if on my first week, yeah, sorry, we don't pay you for the first year of you being a postman and working 50 hours a week. What we do is we give you a piece of paper that says you're great.
Put an IOU in your wage bracket.
Congratulations on the exposure that you have achieved by delivering paper. Exposure don't mean shit, so stuff your exposure up your fucking ass is all I'm saying. Yeah, let's move on.
Well, before we move on, there's one thing I do want to touch on about that match. So there was a comment made about us spitting at each other in the match. So with that, I would like to say that before we went out there, we all discussed the matter on spitting at each other during a pandemic. Everyone was full on board. If someone was uncomfortable, we would have said, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. We'll back off a little bit. But spitting at each other essentially is the exact same as grappling some grease monkey, like full of sweat. It all does the exact same thing. Just because I'm not licking your armpit or spitting all over you, it's still airborne. Like in a pandemic, spitting over each other, it's a bullshit excuse. So I'm not being funny. We all enjoyed ourselves and we all consented to the matter, so it shouldn't be anyone else's business on that sort of shit.
Yeah, there's a soundbite that you could use for a multitude of different fucking moments in your life. We all consented and we all spat on each other and we had a good time. Okay. Welcome to the midnight hour at Wrestle. It's me personally, I wouldn't have done that. But if you guys are happy doing it and have consented to it, that's fine. I agree to a certain extent. I don't want to get into semantics about science and how spitting beer in someone's face is clearly slightly more contagious than maybe doing a collar and elbow tie up. But at the same time, you know what? Like you say, you guys had agreed, you were fine with it, you were comfortable with it, so that's a risk you take. I personally don't think you should be wrestling with the audience. I think it looks cheap and nasty. That's just my opinion. I can't stand this whole thing of like fans chopping wrestlers, because I'll tell you what, if a fucking fan veered up and tried to chop me, I would slap them into the 17th row. That's how I do business. And frankly, I also think that it's important that there is that kind of barrier, because I feel like it does cheapen what we do a little bit. Because then what you're essentially saying is these people who are untrained and have no clue, now all of a sudden they're on our level. They're not, because a lot of us have had to take the bumps and work for that. But the other thing as well is that nothing is cut and dry. You know, there's so many different layers and grains and shades. And because of that, you can't just categorically say one thing or another. And I think in wrestling, a lot of people want to, and that doesn't work. So, you know, it is what it is. But
that's criticism that, again, we can take on board. It's one of them things. I'm not gonna take that and be offended by it. Like, I'm gonna take that as positive criticism, take it on board, and think about that. And maybe in the next show that I'll do, RWE February 19th, by the way, I
was getting to that.
I won't let a fan slap me, or if I do, it'll probably be my missus. But
yeah, and rightfully so, to be honest. Just another day at the office.
I probably deserve it sometimes.
You know, yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, no, like my bottom line to the whole thing, I'll draw a line under it, is that I am of the opinion that if you guys have that match, I would have changed certain things. There were certain things I didn't like. There were certain things I actually really enjoyed that triggered people. Yeah. But it's not as cut and dry as, if certain things don't appeal to me, that needs shit canning. No, to me, it's a case of we can always have the same match, but tweak it and do different things and work around it. Not, that didn't work for me, therefore fuck you, you are AIDS. That's a ridiculous overreaction. Grow up. In the real world, we evolve and we build upon things that may not necessarily work. For instance, if you buy a washing machine and it has a fault in it, you don't pick the whole thing up and launch it out of the fucking third story, do you? Like, you get somebody to come in and fix it or look at it. Well, obviously Ebeneeza might, but, well, I mean, he'll get someone to throw it out for him, because obviously he's not built strong enough to be a washing machine. Come on. Like, look at him. Fucking, it's a toothpick, a little tart. But ultimately, I mean, you're not going to do anything.
That's why I've got a jacket on, so I can, like, lever it out rather than lift it.
I had no idea.
I'm not harder, you know what I mean?
You got an Aeron Cruz of your own, have you? It's the weirdest reference to someone's name ever. It's so random. So let's talk about future bookings, mate. So the inevitable, because this will probably drop right before it. February 19th, Wrestle in Essex. Right in the sort of borough, I suppose, or heart of Chelmsford, or on the outskirts. I don't care. Either way, it's a nice place, lovely venue. We obviously worked there before. You had the pleasure of doing cameras with me on the last show. This time round, you will be working in front of the cameras, because you're going to be in arguably the most charismatically divisive match of the night, because you'll be wrestling ACW's proprietor and shithouse remaster, Danny Disorder, the hardest man in Bournemouth, which is, I equate to being the best looking man in the Burns unit. So, you know, is what it is. But you're going to be working with Danny Disorder, and let's be fair, you're working a bit more this year, aren't you, mate? You must be very excited for this contest.
Yeah. Like, this is going to be my first singles match back for probably 2 years. So I'm quite looking forward to getting back in the ring and doing things on some sort of professional level where we can actually have a decent match. There's going to be so much shithousery involved. You know, you've got gimmick versus gimmick. It's going to be like a great start to a fantastic card. Like, it's not just our match that looks good, and that's not me, sucking my own arsehole. Like, it is going to be a good match, but the rest of the card is also fantastic. You've got a 6-man number one contenders match that has people like Eddie Kenway in and Mr. Potato Head and Scott Jones. You've got, the 6-man tag at the end for the tag titles. You've got Mia Cortez versus Darcy Stone, and that's just like some matches to start with. It's going to be a fantastic evening, and I urge anyone in Essex to go to it, because it's going to be good. It's going to be really good, and I cannot wait to teabag Danny Disorder. Danny with the disorder.
Yes, indeed. He's working Ebeneeza the full-time geezer. I don't even know what one of those is. Good stuff.
That's a right tart, isn't it?
That's a proper. It's like you should do, because you booked him for the last show. Just saying, Mr. Kayfabe. Is what it is. But again, IWE, for anyone watching who's like, oh, I quite fancy a slice of that. Well, it's at Wrestle Sports and Leisure Centre. It'll cost you around £10 if you're an adult, £10 to £12, including booking fees. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Skiddle are what they are. If you head to IWE social media, which is at IW Elite UK across the board, Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter, you'll find links, you'll find match cards and information on everything you want to know. The show starts at not 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock actually, a prompt 6 o'clock start, and will likely be finished around 8. So if you want to, get your fake lashes on and go out and get smashed, because I know what you Essex lot are like, then get involved. I can hear Dexter's missus from here. Like, you got something to say, bitch?
She looked like a meerkat, didn't
Did someone say it's literally? I'm like that with Lincoln, because nobody ever talks about Lincoln. So someone does mention Lincoln, I'm like, huh? Like, my fucking Lincoln radar goes off. Like, what's that? RAF cathedrals, marvelous. I say, very good. It is. It's going to be a really good day's entertainment. I think IWE is going to prove once again that it has always had a great card, a great show, and it is really cool, to be fair, not just as your friend, but as a professional, wrestler themselves, and obviously works in professional wrestling, does so many different things in the business. I've always thought you deserve to be on more shows, and it looks like it's an upwards trajectory for you. It looks like you're working a lot more shows, and you have something to offer that nobody else does. Your gimmick is very unique. Let's talk about the knobs as well, because obviously your boys, they're starting to pick up bookings as well.
Yeah.
The knobs seem to have kicked down the CWP door as well, which is very cool. Obviously, CWP is looking, I believe, to have a show in April. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but we're pretty sure it will happen. And obviously, we know for a fact, where there is one knob, there is many. You can't just have one knob. You need to have a plethora of them. Different coloured knobs, all shapes and sizes. Large knobs, small knobs, intelligent knobs, black knobs. Like, it's a plethora of phallus is what it is. What an absolute palate cleanser this one is. The knobs seem to be gaining traction. I'll ask you the question that I've probably asked 18 times. Where the fuck is your goddamn merchandise link, you sweaty reprobates?
We are in the process of getting it sorted. I'm getting.
You know how many times you've said that to me?
Yes,
we are in the process. What kind of process is this? The process of smashing molecules? Pull your thumb out of your ass, mate.
Well, the last few times you've asked me was before Christmas, and it's a fucking hard enough time to get money up around that sort of time.
Oh, yeah, but he's got plenty of money to buy Wimbrand, hasn't he? But he ain't got enough money to expend in the fucking knobs, has he? Do you know what? I question your passion for the knobs. That's what I question. You give it all that. You come on here and talk about phallus. You come on here and talk about sucking assholes and all this stuff. Oh, look at me. I'm all strong and opinionated, and I've trained in all these places, and you're all a bunch of dickheads. But yeah, Still, months and months and months have passed, and I cannot buy a Knobs t-shirt yet. Shall I just steal the design and make one for myself? Like, because that's pretty much how this gimmick seems to be worked around.
It will happen. It will happen. I guarantee it. I can't give you a date, but it will happen soon.
Well, some of us are older than others, and we're aging, and fuck me, hurry up. Like, I don't want it fucking being draped over my coffin, innit? Like, sorry it's late, mate. In it goes.
That would be a great
wicker basket.
Design, wouldn't it?
You should have a
plastered all over.
Can you imagine if Yokozuna versus The Undertaker had a casket with Knobs sprayed on it? It certainly would have had a different feel to it, especially when he resurrected himself, when he was risen again.
He rezzed himself.
He definitely had a riser on for that one. Knobs indeed. Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're watching this and you'll agree with me. Where the fuck's my Knobs merch? Well, you just have to wait, because apparently,
it's coming. It is coming.
Knobs are always coming, mate.
Knobs are coming.
Yeah, it doesn't normally take this long for a knob to come. It has to be said.
But, the great thing about the Knobs is, like, the first show we did was that Reborn show as ourselves, as
you're welcome.
And thank you, Mr. Nixie. But
someone's got to put you over.
I think everyone can agree that we fucking tore the house down and got one of the loudest cheers of the night. So I think we're starting to gain a little bit of traction. With that being said, we're getting booked on a lot more cards now, which is fantastic.
It's about
fucking gonna get bigger. Knobs are only going to get bigger.
Yeah, it's interesting because not everyone has the same, fervent pleasure and excitement for the Knobs. One Cameron Anderson seems to have plenty to say recently. I knew you were your face there was fantastic. Cameron Anderson is let me finish, relax. All right, there's plenty of time. Cameron Anderson comes on the State of Wrestling address. You know that he works on Wrestle Plug from time to time. I say work, that's a loose term, but he's part of his own little tag team faction. He's training hard. He's got a little bee in his bonnet because some might question why 3 elder statesmen of the Knobs kept cornering young men during the Rumble, which is very suspicious to me. I noticed that you all ganged up on Jake Hollister, admittedly, very pretty in his own right. And if I was a fervent older man, I'd be excited about a younger man like that myself too, I'd imagine. But Cameron Anderson recently on our podcast said, and I quote, "It's good that there aren't guns in locker rooms anymore, because if there was, I would probably blow Ebeneeza The Geezer's brains out all over the curb." He basically said he was going to drive by your ass, which was very fascinating. What's going on here, mate? Like, are you going to deal with Cameron Anderson? Are you going to engage in Cameron Anderson at some point?
Yes, I am going to deal with the little shit. I'm not being funny. I don't understand where all the hate is gone. He rolls up Dirty Dave, and I'm getting the fucking shit for it.
So you're osmosis. Are you not all as one? Do you not work as one fluid unit?
Yeah, but why is he attacking me for?
Why is he not? Do you know what? Right? I am an impartial journalist, sir. Journalist, like Dave Meltzer, right? Journalist. So some Melt. Yeah, we'll just stop at Melt. There's no zer about it. But I do have to ask a question. I know that Eddie Kenway is somewhat affiliated as a knob, right? Why is it that Eddie Kenway wasn't wearing a Knobs t-shirt during the Rumble? Why is it that he was the only individual that had his own gear? Why is it that Eddie Kenway operated in his own? And also, let's be fair, I saw Sensational Simon going over, give us a hug, Big Daddy, give us a hug. And he was like, yeah, all right, mate. What's that all about?
Let's start with Kenway is a knob. If anything, Kenway was a knob before me. He is one of the founding fathers, and he should be recognized as a founding father of a knob. Right, let's.
You have a
start with
problem with the graphic that appeared on and design not featuring Eddie Kenway.
I have a problem with like people only thinking it's a trio because we're a foursome. We're a foursome of knobs. Like it's not just the skinny guys. Like we have our very own bodyguard. We have our mountain of a man. We have our monster. He is a knob himself. He is probably like, if not the best knob in the house. The difference is
he's definitely the biggest.
He's got the muscle, but for some reason, no one puts him on all the posters, and it's upsetting to me because he deserves a bigger platform than I do.
All the posters, please. I'm the only one putting this motherfucker over properly.
Yeah, he didn't give Sensational that much of a cover because everyone knows Simon's a hugger and Kenway not so much. He's more of a like hand over the face kind of mush, and then that's it. Just like get on and do your business. You know? He's an hard man, isn't he? While Sensational. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into that one.
Sounds like there's a hierarchy in the knobs. Is it safe to say that the smallest knob belongs to Sensational?
I'm not gonna start like comparing sizes between the knobs. Like
I mean the fans compare knobs on a regular basis. Like I think we consistently look at the knobs and wonder who is the biggest of all the knobs.
The last time I was on it, you were the one that called Simon the bag carrier. Like there's like no one else has said a word. Like we don't put each other down. It's just you. You're
you scared you're gonna get your feelings hurt?
Me? Come at me, bro.
Oh, at me, bro. All right, Zack Ryder, chill out. I like Sensational Simon, actually. I've championed him on this podcast. It was nice to see him work in ACW, of course. I've noticed that me and you tend to find ourselves doing a lot of camera work together, and we had the pleasure of watching Sensational Simon versus the Pitbull. What a fucking extreme individual that is. Blimey, I wouldn't like to meet him.
I enjoyed that match. And like for me, Simon needs to get a lot more, what's the word? He doesn't get enough attention
or respect.
Like
you know
Simon,
why? Because he's nice.
Guy. Yeah, nice. That's it. He's got that winning smile. He's a cheeky little chappy. He's a lovely guy, and like he just doesn't get enough, like you say, respect or attention. He deserves a lot more. Like Dave's doing so like well for himself. Like with all the cameos, making people laugh, and
he's more aggressive though, isn't he, Dave? Like he's willing to kick doors in a lot more.
Yeah, and obviously Kenway, there's no like you can't really like say much about Kenway. Like he's doing so well on his own as well. The long total reign, he's like starting to get into places such as ACW and IWE as well. Hopefully the boys can come with me to BCW at some stage in the future as well, so we can all be a foursome on that as well. But
any news about your boys at BCW for a future show?
I haven't heard anything yet, but all I know is the longer a show doesn't go on, the longer the reign is for my title. You know what I mean?
That is true. You are I believe you're the BCW theatre champion. Is that correct?
The theatre champion. That is correct
indeed. And they fucking got upset about the 24/7 title. Really,
I was so humbled when they when I was given the title as well. Like it's one of those. Like the story is fantastic. The story is absolutely like hilarious, and I cherish being the champ because it's my first championship. It's my first championship that I've been able to obtain, and I will cherish it as long as I have the belt on me. You know, it's one of them. It could have been a bit prettier with the design, but again, that's why we're going with a great story to begin with, and then hopefully one day it might turn into like a nice shiny metal thing, but you know, I'm happy with what I'm given. I'm humbled to be a champion, and I will be humbled if anywhere was to put a belt on me. Like being a champion, it's a big deal. You got to take pride in being a champion, and people like Dave taking pride in his own championship. It's a great thing to see. Kenway being a champion, at the No Limits champion, the longest reigning. Like he takes so much pride, so much effort, like so much love for the championship. It's great to see it when people do that. Like unfortunately, Sensation hasn't got that chance yet, but the time will come, son. The time will come.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yeah, no doubting the talent involved in your faction. Be interesting to see if Cameron Anderson can disrupt that somewhat.
He's better fuck off because I'm going to knock that little prick out. Honestly, I've got a bee in my bonnet about the little dickhead at the moment. I can't believe he's getting in my face. Like, what is it with these little whippersnappers that start attacking me for no goddamn reason? Like, first
Probably it was because you're the king whippersnapper, bruv. Like, I mean,
first it was the old Crucy Juicy. Now it's Cameron Anderson. Who the fuck next?
no idea, but there seems to be an endless supply of twinks. So, yeah, never know. The factory just keeps rolling them out. As we move to the finish, mate, we'll do word association again, and we'll see how that goes. Is there anything you'd like to chat about? Anything you want to plug quickly?
Not really, apart from all of the dinosaurs that was offended by or is offended by my character. Keep the dislike button going, son, because the algorithm's working in my favour.
Certainly is. It certainly is. The subscribers keep going up as well. So exactly. You know what? Who can argue with organic growth? And if there's one thing a knob would know all about, it's organic growth. Absolutely. All right, then. Well, social media, ladies and gentlemen. Ebeneeza's been on before, but we'll put the links in the description below because he's one of those annoying pricks who doesn't have the same fucking tag for every single social media. So, description below, check him out, and obviously give him a follow, particularly if you want to hear red hot opinions about current topical satire. He's got plenty to say about a lot of things, and to be honest, it's do you know what, actually we'll quickly throw that in there as well, because I know it's something that you're pretty hot about, the whole Jimmy Carr scenario and the jokes and the cancel culture and things like that. Just quickly, your opinions on the whole thing.
Yeah, so to begin with, if you do end up like going on my Twitter, it is purely, a lot of it is more political based and over 18 kind of stuff, because I do go absolutely bonkers on there. But I think one of the last things that you just said there was something to do with the Jimmy Carr thing. Like, what winds me up nowadays is all of these ferrets that can't take a joke. Like it was that Jimmy Carr like thing came out at the end of November. I went to one of them shows, one of them warm-up shows, and I heard that everyone in the place absolutely lost their marbles with laughter, because it is a funny joke, because it is a joke. And like I said to you the other day, if we're gonna go technically, I have a heritage of Spanish gypsies in my family bloodline. I didn't get offended by that. I thought it was funny as shit. If anyone was to be offended by it, it's people like me, the heritage. But I didn't get offended because I'm not a fucking fanny. I'm not like people need to stop being soft twats. Like, there is a difference between being offended by something so harsh, like something to do with racism, something to do with homophobia, something to do with transphobia. It's okay to be offended in that way. But if something that's being made to be a joke of laughter, stop being a soft twat and get over it. Like, at the end of the day, anyone can say whatever they want. Like, it's freedom of speech. You can do what you want. don't be one of them knobheads that got make a strongly worded tweet on Twitter and try and get someone cancelled. It's wrong. Look, you could essentially lose someone their job. And in this current climate, when it's hard enough to get work as it is, to then help make someone lose their job over a fucking joke, get a grip, you absolute tossbox. But yeah, that's mainly what you'll get from my Twitter.
Yeah. No, I'm in fair amount of agreement there. I've always been of the opinion that offence is taken, not given. Right, word association, and we'll get you out of here. One word to describe these individuals. One word, please, not 55, because I want to go to bed. Robbie Nitro.
Potato.
Thank you very much. Eddie Kenway.
No.
I saw your brain thinking, can I get away with saying something worse? we shall go with knob.
Stick with knob.
Because I don't want to end up on the Jimmy Carr spectrum. Absolutely fine. Yeah, absolutely fine. Sensational Simon Durden.
Sensational.
Change your second name. It's terrible. Sorry, mate. Dirty Dave Dennis.
Filthy.
Dirty. Let's see. Cameron Anderson.
Dick.
Did you say dick?
Dick.
Oh, thank God. Thought we were going to have to open up another jar of racism. Buff Daddy.
Legend.
Absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. Fianchi T.
Boring.
Rishi Ghosh.
Whore. Like there's.
Did you say whore?
Whore. He's a whore.
He's yeah, I was going to say.
There are many words that I could use, and all being positive. Probably master. Because the way I see it, sometimes if I was to ever have a match with him, I would always love it to go underneath the master and the student kind of thing, because he taught me a lot, and without Rishi, I wouldn't be the geezer.
So we got him to blame for your nonsense, have we?
I have a lot I owe him a lot.
It's pretty cool. Joshua James.
Do you know what? I miss that guy. I miss that guy a lot, and I would probably, I don't know what words to use for him, but where he is now, he should have been years ago. He's very, very well deserved where he is now, and I couldn't be happier for him. I've got so much love and respect for that guy. Like, if you're watching or listening, Joshua, keep going, man. Keep going. He
ain't got time to watch this crap. he's too busy becoming a mega star, mate. He ain't got time for that.
Absolutely. Well deserved to be a mega star as well.
Jake Hollister.
Oh, like if anything, geezer.
He's
He's a Yankee geezer.
Rob Connor.
Geezer.
Rob Connor.
Beautiful, beautiful man. Like, again, he's another one of those guys where, like, I've got so much time and love for him. Like, he's always checking up on me, vice versa. I can't wait for him to come back for a career so I can give him a big squidgy hug.
Mia Cortez.
Oh, sick, mate. Sick.
It's a good word. It's a good word to describe her.
No, I want to change that to fire. She is absolute fire.
Yeah, it's very difficult to slap one word on something like that. Saying something that's that special. LA Taylor.
What a lovely bird that is. What an absolute lovely woman. Like, I've never actually seen any of her stuff, But
she's amazing.
but
So good.
but obviously I met her at that ACW show we went to, and oh, what a class act! What a class act!
Yeah, just a dream of a person to work with. I'm very lucky that I've watched Taylor from the start of her career all the way up till now. It's amazing the growth in that small amount of time as well. Like crazy. You know, this is a girl who had asthma when she first started and is now actually in remission because she works out so hard. Like she's literally worked out so hard that asthma has decided I'm leaving this body. Like that's an astonishing thing just to even say, but it's actually scientifically true. Yeah, no, a phenomenal athlete. We always finish with the same person, you, Ebeneeza.
Oh, what an absolute mug! What an absolute twat that geezer is.
It should be geezer until the end of time. It's just a word that sums you up. I enjoy having you on the podcast. It's fresh, it's different, it's unique. You know, a lot of times when you have wrestlers, not complaining, obviously it's great to have fresh talent on and share their career. But at this point, we're sort of, you know, more than just podcaster and guy who comes on and talks about his wrestling career, which is nice. It's nice to have a fresh conversation between friends that also involves the wrestlers on the podcast. So looking forward to number 4, mate. So ladies and gentlemen, like I've said, February 19th, of course, Ebeneeza The Geeza versus Danny Disorder. April, he'll be wrestling, no doubt, for CWP. Of course he will. He made such a mark. How could you not use him? Even if he is the contributor to the killing of British wrestling. My fucking ass. Just saying. And yeah, no doubt Wing Clothing will continue to grow as well. Wingclothing.com. And of course, I believe it's Wing Clothing Range on Instagram as well. And obviously, if you type in Wing Clothing on Facebook, you can find it. Look for the big white W on the black background. That's the way to get it, or vice versa, indeed. And he's even wearing one of the hats right now. So if you do have an inkling, might be worth checking it out, because I know he's mentioned discounts are coming. So good opportunity. Any a model, bless him. Oh, bless his aunt. Look underneath at the bit that nobody will see. Isn't that nice?
Magic. Whoa, what's going to be coming up? It's more win.
More win. Everyone's a winner. They just need to find the winning mentality. Yeah, no, loads of things going on, mate. But it's a pleasure as always to have you on.
It's always a pleasure to be coming on. It's like I said, it's nice to have a fresh conversation. And very X-rated. Like the gloves come off, and it's good to have conversations like that rather than people, you know, walking around the glass and the eggshells. We don't.
Yeah, no, we don't do that at Wrestle Plug. We
want integrity.
Yeah, we have integrity here, and we have conviction in what we believe, and I'm not going to change that. And the great thing about anyone who comes on is they can say and do as they please, and they can express themselves in the way that they feel is necessary and is conducive to their personality. And that will continue to be the case. So if anyone's interested in following or subscribing to a unbelievably uncensored and free podcasting platform at Wrestle Plug across all social media and wherever you get your podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But from myself, Aeron X, and particularly from the full-time geezer, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. And we'll catch you very soon for more content from the Wrestle Plug.
Ta-ra!
Love you. Bye.